Hi, and welcome to Stressed, the podcast to develop your stress resilience. Being ambitious and successful while living a happy life is possible. Learn how you can better cope with stress in day-to-day situations by applying tools and techniques that work for you. My name is Julia Arndt, and I'm extremely grateful that you decided to check out my podcast today. Let's get started. Hello, my dear podcast listener. Welcome back to Stress, the podcast to develop your stress resilience. Thank you so much for checking in and listening to today's podcast episode on why I decided to leave Google. But before I jump into why I decided to leave Google, I wanted to say thank you to everyone that has started to listen to my podcast. It's been such an amazing time of my life looking at the stats in my podcast overview dashboard and seeing all the people that are starting to listen to my podcast. It's super encouraging for me and obviously keeps me going. So thank you so much for listening, and also thank you so much for the people that have started to submit reviews and ratings, which are obviously really, really helpful for me to get my podcast out there and have more people that are dealing with stress understand better where it comes from and how they can deal with it. So because I think it's so great that people actually start submitting reviews, I wanted to read two of them to you today. The first one is from Greta Catherine, and she says, "Amazing stress management resource. As someone who had to leave their corporate job due to stress and correlating health issues, I'm so grateful for Julia's wisdom. This podcast serves as a straightforward and honest look at stress and how it greatly impacts our quality of life. Mind, body, soul. I wish I had discovered it earlier." Thank you so much, Greta. I'm sorry to hear that you had to leave your corporate job because of stress, and I really hope that you're managing it better today. So thank you very much for submitting this review. And then the second one that I received is from CMC Lean Taylor, and he says, "Great podcast to build stress resilience. A great blend of personal reflection and educational content about stress and stress management. Fantastic for anyone looking for actionable steps to help deal with stress and start to develop skills to minimize stress regardless of your day-to-day environment." So yeah, thank you so much. Also, CMC, or whatever your name is. And I really appreciate all of the feedback. I hope, this will obviously be helpful to others as well. So if you have a colleague, co-worker, a friend, or even a family member that you think could benefit from the information that I'm sharing in these podcasts, please make sure that you're sharing them with them. And obviously, I would always love to hear from you, either via a review and a rating, which will be helpful for me, but also through my new website that I just launched last week. You can find my website under bluemountainmindfulness.com. And so far, there's not a ton of information on there because I just kind of scrambled that website together before I left Google to make sure that I can stay in touch with people. But the great thing on that website is that you will have an overview of all of my podcast episodes, and there's a link as well where you can submit your questions and topics that you would like me to talk about. So I would really love to hear from you. You can submit your questions that way. But I also started an Instagram account. You can also find that under @bluemountainmindfulness. And I will always share a post on each episode, so you can just either post your question underneath the post or you can DM me. Whatever works for you, I would really love to hear from you. So with that, I'm really jumping into today's podcast episode topic today. I'm sitting in my kitchen right now, my first day of official unemployment, and my first official day as an entrepreneur. So it's been really exciting because we've had a really big snowstorm over the last 3 days here in Lake Tahoe. And it's still snowing. I can hardly look out of my kitchen window. It's all full of snow. And yeah, it's really nice to be here. I'm cozied up. I'm super excited to record this podcast episode. Super excited that you're listening in. And now I'm getting started. All right, so why did I decide to leave Google? As some of you might know, and some of you that have started to listen to my podcast from the early beginnings, I decided to start this podcast because when I came back from my medical leave mid-December, which was a medical leave because I was burned out last year, I decided to share my story with some internal groups because I felt super alone and isolated when I went back to work kind of as well. Definitely, I definitely felt very vulnerable and not really sure of how people would react to me coming back, but also obviously to make that decision in the first place and to decide to take care of myself and stay at home for a couple of months to really recover and take time out to get back into a balanced and healthy rhythm. So when I came back, I posted on these internal groups, and in just a week, I had 300 people that reached out to me telling me that they would be interested to join a stress management training, which was really overwhelming and incredible for me. So that kind of sparked the idea for the podcast, because I thought there's no way that in a 1-hour lunch and learn session at work, I could share all of the ideas and thoughts that I have about stress management, all the tools and techniques that are out there. And so that's how the podcast was born. And then in January, I actually started to commute back down to Silicon Valley, to the Bay Area, to be back at work full time and to get back into my projects, obviously at work, but also at the same time start talking with people about stress management and giving my lunch and learn session. So at the beginning, I think it was the 7th or the 9th of January, I gave a stress management training. I had 100 people that actually showed up, which was so amazing, and that went with me through my content about how to see early warning signals of stress, how you can identify them, how to identify situations where you already successfully manage stress, and then learn tools and techniques of how you can cope with stress on a daily basis. And that was super awesome and fun. And I got a lot of really positive feedback afterwards. So I actually decided to do a second stress management training at work as well, that I did on working with blocks, limiting beliefs and fears. Also, super important topic. I definitely want to do a podcast on that one day as well. So that was kind of all the things that happened around my stress management training. Oh, and I also started to do one-to-one coachings with co-workers. Over the last 4 weeks, I had around 25 one-to-one conversations with IC, so individual contributors, with managers, with team leads, with leaders about stress management, because I was so curious to learn more about how they're managing stress, how they're thinking about stress, and that all very inspired me. It inspired me that much that I was, considering what am I going to do next with all of this, because here I was back in the Bay Area, back kind of into my misery, to be honest with you. Besides all of the excitement things that happened on the stress management training side, I was back. All of the signals and triggers were back. I was back alone during the week, commuted back to Tahoe during the weekends, 2,000 miles in total over the last 4 weeks alone. I felt extremely stressed and anxious and tired. I didn't sleep really well. I had definitely sleepless nights. I had nights where I woke up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, partly because obviously I was very excited about all the things that were happening, but at the same time, also really worried about what am I going to do? Like, here I am again talking about stress management and trying to help people, but at the same time, I'm not perfect, and it totally impacted me. I got a cold, as you could hear in one of my last podcast episodes. I was very nasal. So I was, struggling with that for a week. Then last week I felt my immune system was totally down, and it was just a lot. And I thought that I just can't go on like this. And sometimes if a decision is lingering, this is what can really, really stress us. And it's really tough to make a decision when we are really stressed. I think I was in a really great space because I was home for a couple of months and I saw how well I was, and then I went back into the same situation with the commute. The commute, I think, is the biggest thing for me, the commute, and then being alone during the week. I came back during the weekends. I think over the last 4 or 5 weeks, I've had constant fights with my partner, and it's all because I wasn't really happy anymore with what I was doing. I almost wanted to self-fulfill myself. And yeah, that's why I made the extremely, extremely difficult decision that after 7.5 years, I will leave Google and pursue my own dream, pursue my entrepreneurship thinking, and I want to help people in stress management. So yeah, that was big. That was a really big decision, but it had to happen. And you know how they say, one door closes, the next one opens. Yes, that was exactly how it all happened. So let me kind of talk to you about this as well. So the first thing, what you probably ask yourself now is, oh my God, like, how is she gonna manage, everything now with regards to the financial security? And yes, that was my biggest fear, my biggest worry. It's like, how am I going to make money on my own without all of the stability that I had at work, with all of the, salaries that I received, all the benefits, health insurance, 401ks, all the fun stuff that we are so comfortable with? How am I going to make that work without having a corporate job? And the answer is, I don't really know yet. We will see how it goes, but I'm such a huge believer that stress management is such an important skill to learn. I'm such a huge believer that everyone needs to learn how to manage stress, especially in our today's world, in the digital world, in the tech world. Everybody should have some tools and techniques. Everybody knows how to take care of their bodies nowadays. They know they should do physical activity. Everybody should know that they should eat eat healthy and on a regular basis. But not a lot of people know yet how to be preventive instead of reactive when it comes to stress management. A lot of people that I talk to in my one-to-one coachings were already very stressed out. They reached out to me because they had already identified that there is a lot of stuff going on that is not really normal anymore. And even though that's great as well, it's great that they had this awareness, I want to have people prevent that they're even getting there, that they have to take a leave of absence, or that that they're struggling with their day-to-day jobs and their day-to-day lives and, getting along with people the whole time because they're so stressed out. So this is my story. So yeah, financial was definitely a very big fear. And then I talked to my manager and I told him that, that I think that I will resign from Google and pursue my own dreams. And he was so supportive. I think it blew me away. I had no expectation whatsoever of, will he support me or will he not support me in my endeavor? But obviously hearing him, how excited he was about my idea, was so helpful for me. And then I talked to the head of our department, same reaction, tons of ideas, tons of excitement. And I thought, oh, okay, it seems that this is a subject that a lot of people care about. So that's great. And then I created my website, I created my Instagram site. And during the weekend, so I've had a lot of really busy weeks behind me. And then announced it internally and on my social network that I will be leaving Google to pursue my own company. And it's been such a wonderful week. The last 10 days, I've heard from so many people that felt so inspired through my own decision, but also that are supporting me in what I'm doing. And that obviously gives me a lot of hope. To be honest with you, all of the messages that I received, I took a screenshot of them and put them in a folder on my phone, because I know that there will be one point in my entrepreneurship that I will be thinking, oh my God, what did I do? And I want to read those messages again from all of these people that have been so encouraging and so wonderful to me. So thank you again to all of the people that have reached out over the last week to me. It's been so so exciting. And I really, obviously, I want to give this back. I want to give it back 100 and 1,000 times. I want to share a lot of content with you. I want to come to your companies and give stress management trainings. If you want to have me, I would love to come as a speaker. I'm thinking about offering workshops in Tahoe on stress management. So if you're interested in things like that, let me know. There's no plans yet. I think I will start obviously with more the corporate world and the corporate style conferences and trainings. But, obviously I'm super open to any ideas. There is a contact form on my website, bluemountainmindfulness.com. There's a form to submit questions on my website as well, as I mentioned already earlier, for the podcast, so I can talk about these things as well. I had already companies reaching out to me, not just Google, but also other companies in the Bay Area that are super interested to talk to me about stress management training. So everything is falling into place, which is incredible. You know how I know I already mentioned that, but they say one door closes, the next door opens. I feel like there's already 5-6 doors that opened in 1 week. And so I'm really excited to see what is happening next. And if you are struggling with a decision right now, I hope this is a little bit of a sign for you and some encouragement for you that, being in a job that you're maybe not so happy with anymore, and it might not even be the role. It might not be that you don't like your team or your manager or what you're doing, but it just might not seem as fulfilling anymore to you. Or you might be in a relationship that you have been asking yourself a lot of questions lately of if that is still the thing that you want to do. Then see this as a sign that you should be thinking about these things. Maybe it's really stressing you out, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason because it's probably very important to you. That's the first thing. But in the second thing, there's probably a decision that needs to happen. So I love kind of that whole decision topic, because intense emotions are usually led by fear and anxiety, and we're getting a tunnel vision. So it's a lot harder to actually make a decision, because we just think through all the worst things that can happen. We don't think about all the good things that can happen, all the positive things that come out. Obviously, just from a health perspective of how much lighter and happier we can feel, but how it will also impact all the people around us, all the people that are close to us, and all the people that are not close to us. I'm sure that even my colleagues have been wondering over the last couple of weeks of what I'm going to do. And I wanted to be a great employee, but I just wasn't anymore, because I started to believe in this new dream, and I wanted to make sure that I'm not only influencing my own company, but also all the other people and all the other companies out there. So this is my story. I hope that you can take a couple of learnings from that as well. As I mentioned, if you have any questions, please let me know. I would be more than happy to answer them to you. And as kind of a final, kind of message to you, I will read to you my goodbye letter that I wrote to Google last weekend, and that I was very sad to write. I felt very nostalgic writing it, because I feel like I'm just so grateful for all the things that I've learned and all the experiences that I've had and all the amazing people that I've met over the last few years. So I will read to you my letter, and I will leave you with that. I hope we will hear each other next week, which I'm already super excited to share with you that episode, because I have interviewed an author, and I'm planning to do a lot more interviews over the next, obviously, coming weeks. I'm planning to start my YouTube channel, which I'm so excited about. I've had so many interesting one-to-one coaching sessions, and I want to start providing stress hacks about how you can manage your stress on a day-to-day basis. So if you have anything that is stressing you right now, is it emails, is it meetings, is it how to balance work and life, maybe with a kid at home, please do let me know, and I'm more than happy to help you find an answer on that. So with that, I'm going to read to you my letter and say thank you so much for listening today. And don't forget, stress management is a skill that everyone can learn. you are already on the right track to make sustainable changes to your professional career and personal life. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much. Hear you soon. With gratitude, Julia. Dear colleagues, in stress management, we talk about how the things in our life that stress us are a sign of their importance. The more stressed out we are, the more important something is for us. Work is, for a lot, if not all of us, an extremely important subject. We spend at least 40 hours per week at our workplace. We earn the money that supports not only us and gives us shelter, food, and all the things we need to live, but in many cases also carries the well-being of our families. At Google, we get a lot more than that. Besides working on fascinating, powerful projects, we are able to create incredible lives. We are able to travel and see the world, afford things that elevate our happiness, enable a safe future when we retire, provide health benefits for us and our families. We are incredibly privileged people living in a privileged world. But this can also lead to a lot of stress and insecurity when we feel that even though we have all of that, we don't feel fulfilled. A small voice in me has been wondering for a while if there isn't something more. After 3.5 years having this voice in my head, I couldn't ignore it any longer, since at that stage it had impacted my physical and mental well-being and endangered some of my most important personal relationships. Because sometimes we get stressed when a decision has to happen, and the feelings will not subside until we have taken care of it. After a 3-month medical leave, I returned to work in December 2018, sharing my experience with some internal groups to offer a training on stress management. When in only 1 week, 300 people from all over the world reached out to me, I wondered how many more people and corporations I could reach to help to create a more sustainable lifestyle. I felt extremely inspired, which finally helped me to make a decision a little bit easier. If I was able to manage projects for a multi-billion-dollar company successfully, why not manage my own personal project and build my own business? So, this is it. After 7 years and 3 months at Google, I have decided to hand in my resignation and pursue my dream. To combine my business knowledge, my certifications, and my love for the place I so desperately want to call my permanent home. I have a lot of exciting plans for 2019 and beyond. I want to write a book, pursue to post weekly learnings and education to my podcast listeners and YouTube subscribers, create 2-day workshops for teams in Lake Tahoe as well as in-house stress management trainings and one-to-one coachings, with the hope and aspiration to continue to work with amazing people like you. January 31st, 2019 will mark my last day in my career at Google. I'm feeling very grateful for these wonderful years, lots of learnings and experiences, and most of all the amazing people I got to work with and call my friends. Thank you for making this a special time of my life that I will always look back to with pride and a full heart. Thanks to you for being part of my experience. Hear you soon. With gratitude, Julia. If you enjoyed this episode, I would be extremely happy and grateful if you could leave me a comment and a 5-star rating. If you know someone who would benefit from the information I talked about today, please feel free to share it with them, no matter if it is your friends, your colleagues, and/or your family members. You will always find all links and a summary of the podcast in the show notes. It would be great if we could connect on Instagram or via email. You can find all details of how to find me in the show notes as well. And that way, you can also send me any questions that you might have. I'm glad you're listening to this podcast. Thank you so much for your trust. With gratitude, Julia.